Hello!
Hello, AOS fans!
It's the Agents of Sigmar.
And in this video, we're looking at the brand new Kamandora's Blades.
The next warband to be released by GW, Kamandora's Blades. They're like a Chaos, Dark Oathy type warband with a little twist.
Yes, absolutely. Many thanks to GW for sending us a copy of these early so we can have a gander at them. Yeah, they're a relatively fast-moving warband. And I have to say, the first thing I want to clear up is that the minis don't look quite so bad in the flesh as they do in the pictures.
I'm still not really sold about the dog thing, bull,
I don't
whatever
mind
it
the
is.
dog thing.
It's the feet. It's the feet.
The good thing about the feet was just like, just put black over that.
It's just when you look at it, it's like the feet are just at this weird janky angle.
Yeah.
It's like there's no motion to it. It's very weird. I don't know why they've done
the
that.
bull on Wall Street.
Yeah.
I didn't mind it. It's obviously it's no Riptooth. Obviously,
No, obviously not. No one's ever going to beat the big.
Riptooth. But it's better than Gruul.
Yeah, that's
which
true.
is probably my most hated model. Don't at me.
So they are a 5-fighter warband. They are fairly fast. They're all on dodge. They're not Magors going on that front. They're weaker, but being 5 fighters, you would expect that.
Yeah, and in terms of what we've had this season, I don't think they're as bad as the Knives of the Crow.
No, I think stats-wise they're better, and card-wise they're better as well.
Card's quite nice. We'll come on to that in a minute. They're not as obviously good as Jaws of Itzel.
No.
I'm not sure they've got the potential to be as good as Grandfather's Gardeners either. They take a bit more finesse to Grandfather's Gardeners, but I don't. It's hard to tell. But I put them on a par with Borgits. They've got some game.
Yeah.
But they're not bust.
Yes, exactly. I think because you know the fighters are going to die. The leader only has 3 wounds, and the biggest boy only has 4 wounds on him, and the rest are 3 or 2. So you know they're not going to hang around forever. So you've got to get those strikes in surgical and fast, and get them where you need them.
I would say it's got a delightfully straightforward war scroll.
Yeah, no faff, all business, no filler. Basically, it just everything is pretty straightforward on that.
It's only got one use once per game thing,
Yeah.
which I don't really like the once per game thing, so it puts me in a quandary. It's got a fairly straightforward inspire condition. Well, before we do the inspire condition, they have to nominate a worthy skull at the start of the first action each round, and they nominate the opponent's fighter as the worthy skull. They inspire by being stood next to the worthy skull fighter at the end of any power step.
Yep.
So their own power step or your opponent's power step. If you're standing next to it, you inspire that fighter.
You've got a chance to some side steps or laws of battle or things like that, or commanding stride to get in there.
Yep, and they can also inspire if the fighter that kills the worthy skull, they will inspire. But the problem with that is if you've killed the fighter, you cannot pick another worthy skull until the beginning of the next round. So you have to think about whether you want to kill them or not.
So if you're up against like Sepulchral Guard or another Horde warband, whoever you pick as the worthy skull, you just don't try and kill him. You just run up next to him and hit somebody else or something like that instead, or just hit him with a 1 damage attack. So,
yeah, you've got a couple of 1 damage attacks when they start off, so you could charge one of the weaker fighters in, do a little damage, then charge him with a better fighter. If you miss, they inspire. If you hit, they kill them in inspire. So you have got options. Like Pete says, if you're playing a Horde warband, you might want to run past them but leave yourself touching them. So that means they've got supports, but that means you're going to inspire. It had some interesting elements to the game. We were discussing with Pete whether if you want to make sure you don't pick a mobile fighter because your opponent might just run that fighter into the back corner. And you're sort of struggling then to inspire for the rest of the turn.
Yeah, very few other warbands have that reliance on what your opponent does with this fighter to inspire your own fighter. And I think as long as you're canning, you always pick like a fairly linchpin fighter for the group. You know that they can't afford to run them away, and they're going to have to bring them into the action. If you're up against a chunkier warband, a Mollog or something like that, would be perfect because you can just keep running in and hitting him and just staying in base to base. The only downside to that, of course, is that he can hit you back.
Face. So we're going to look at push tech for this warband, and it comes on the rest of the war scroll. There are 3 things, and 2 of them have their own little bit of push tech.
Yep.
One occurs when you declare who the worthy skull is, and I quite like this. Basically, when you declare who it is, you then push every fighter towards the worthy skull.
Very headcracker-esque, but before that was just with 2 of them.
Yep.
Now it's your whole warband, and you do that every round.
I'm going to say, and it's 3 times.
Yeah.
Although I think one slight flaw is that because that's very much about inspiring, once everybody's inspired, you kind of forget to do it.
Yeah.
Because there's no other bonus. There's nothing else you don't get anything else for killing a worthy skull. You don't get anything extra. It's not like the Muggins or anything like that. There's no bonus for killing the worthy skull. So once you're inspired, you tend to forget, but you have to do it. And it does say you must push each friendly fighter 1 hex. What it doesn't say is what happens if you can't push them 1 hex. I assume you just don't.
Yeah,
but
because you might have them all bunched up after a bit of a mush in the middle or something like that, and then. But it is good for if you're starting to lose fighters later on, possibly getting more people into close range to be able to get attacks off without having to worry about wasting a charge.
Absolutely. So it is handy, and you can, in theory, if you put an objective in the right place, you could push somebody off for starting hex into neutral territory if you've got that and straight onto there, so they you're immediately covering it, which could be good. The other bit of push tech they have is the thing at the bottom, which is called the pursuit, which you can do once per game, and basically it's the old heal card from the Godsworn Hunt. You can call the dog, push the dog up to 4 hexes as long as they stand next to Kamandora, which is really good because you can charge him with Kamandora. It's in the power step there, so you charge in, don't kill whatever you're attacking, push the dog up, and that's both of them inspired.
And they're both on 2 dodge, which is quite tasty.
Yeah.
They then have their other ability, which GW have already kind of covered in their article, but it is the blood for corn and the whole slashing aspect of things,
which is really neat and thematic, and I quite like it, and adds some interesting interactions.
And I kind of feel like this should have been for the Dark Elves, really.
Yeah, probably
really
should.
Feels like it should have been for them, but these guys have got it, and they all have this rune mark, which is for slashing on their card. And what does slashing do, Robin?
Basically, when you have a successful attack with slashing, you give your opponent a bleed counter, and then if they do anything in the next action phase, so it lasts until their next power step. If they do anything with a fighter with a bleed counter, they take 1 damage,
which is quite nasty. It's just 1 damage. There's no rolls, no nothing involved.
Yeah, it can be on a vulnerable fighter, so if you do it to a vulnerable fighter, they basically can't do anything.
Yeah, unless they just want to die afterwards.
Well, yes. Yes, because it is it happens after you've done the thing. So you could, in theory, go out in a blaze of glory.
Yeah, but that means if you move, if you charge, if you attack, go on guard, anything like that, or if you use any of the Warband specific actions on their cards, like the Sepulchral Warden wanting to rise petitioners up or move people around the board, you can take a damage in that situation.
Yeah, it is worded slightly funnily, and I missed the important step that it is only until your opponent, to the end of your opponent's next power step. So if they don't do anything with that fighter, and then they do something, they can do something the following turn, because it talks about having multiple counters and removing or counters on multiple fighters, but you can't actually do that at the moment in the game. I don't think.
No, I don't think you can.
No way
really.
you can attack with both of these guys twice in 1 turn.
No, there aren't any cards yet that enable you to make an attack like that. And whilst your opponent might just sit and go, okay, I've got a bleed count, so I'm not going to do anything right now. I'm going to do somebody else. You can use that to your advantage by continually attacking the linchpin fighter, so your Morgok or someone like that, and they're going to be like, I want to charge with this guy, but I can't because you keep doing. I don't want to take that damage. And at some point, quite often, your opponent's warband's going to end up fully charged out. Apart from this one fighter, hopefully you can get a token on. They're like, well, now I have to do something with them, and now I'm going to take that damage regardless, and that could mount up quite quickly.
Absolutely. It means you can sidle up to them, knowing that they probably aren't going to attack you. So if you've got a sidestep and you want to inspire them, you could push up safely rather than pushing up and then being smashed in the face. Yeah. It's got a bit of extra utility, and it's quite thematic, and I quite enjoy it. That's the most interesting aspect of the Warband, I think, and one that I think somebody who works out how to make that work best is going to do well with the Warband.
Yeah, I think it's great because you can have a lot of 1 damage fighters that can do a damage to another similarly chafy fighter on the other side, and then they're stuck. They can't do anything for a turn, so you can possibly stop like a lot of Sepulchral Guard fighters moving particular fighters they want to move up to get onto objectives or things like that.
Yeah.
But also you can use it to target like your Mologs and stuff, and always go for the Mologs, because then your opponent's going to be like, well, I want to activate Molog almost every turn, but if you can get an attack in every turn, even if you're only doing 1 damage a time, he's going to take another damage every time he then does something after that, which mounts up very quick. You could easily kill Molog in a round with that kind of additional ping damage.
Your opponent kept fighting, but yes, you could, or certainly it would. If they don't want to attack, it would cramp their style. They'd have to charge with the bat squig or something.
Yeah.
Should we have a look at the stats?
Let's look at the cards. The cards themselves, the fighters are fairly basic stuff, and they all move 4. They all start on 1 dodge, apart from Kamandora, who starts on 2 dodge.
She's 2 glory. Throck, her kind of right-hand man, is 2 glory, and the rest are all 1 glory.
Yep. Wounds-wise, the boss, Kamandora, has 3 wounds. Throck's got 4, because he's the bigger lad. The other pair, Galista and Antro Crest, both have 3 wounds on them, and then Kanat has just 2 wounds.
Cannot believe it. I think they're quite good wound profiles, actually. I know like, the game is a little bit different. People have got more wounds, but I might have expected one of the guys to have just 2 wounds as well.
I mean, they've got 15 spread across the warband, which is about average.
It feels okay. Kamandora is a little bit fragile.
Yeah, but she does start on 2 dodge to sort of...
You've got to think about if you're playing... I tried them, we're doing a separate video, but I tried them with the new deck, and there's quite a lot of cards in there for having your leader alive and also charging your leader in. Yeah. And those 2 things with Kamandora are fairly mutually exclusive.
Attack weapon profile wise, there's no ranged attacks in here. They're all range 1, which can limit them a little bit, but you kind of want to get in close anyway for the inspiration mechanics, so maybe that's not such a bad thing. You've got
literally no range attacks, it's all melee, and there's no melee range too, so it's,
They all have the slashing rune mark on them, which is a bit of a problem in that if you want to get a cleave or great strength or something in there, you're going to have to then start picking between the 2, which I don't necessarily love.
No, but it also means you haven't got any access to extra damage. So the most you can do is 2 without an upgrade.
Yeah, although they do have then the slashing, which could possibly do more damage as well. But that's dependent.
You're not going to be one-shotting very many people with these, which is in there. That's in their whole shtick, isn't it? They are literally kind of like little bleeders.
Kamandora's a fairly basic 2 hammer 2 damage attack. So is Rawk with 2 hammers 2 damage. The twins, Galista and Antrocrast, are both 3 swords and 1 damage, so they're about the same accuracy as the others, but just 1 damage on them. And then the dogs, 2 swords, 1 damage.
Yeah, but they all inspire to quite nice things.
Yeah, they all inspire to 2 dodge for a start, which is nice, and their inspiration is relatively easy, so it's nice to know that you can very quickly, if you want to, get them up to 2 dodge when you need to.
And they get quite accurate, so you've got 3 hammers, 2 damage on the 2 big guys, and then 4 swords 2 damage on the other 2, and that's not to be sniffed at.
That's not bad, although 4 swords does sometimes feel a bit like a trap.
Yeah, but you've got ways of you might be able to suck people in at the beginning with the worthy skull, and you've got maybe you could bring up the dog, but you probably won't because you've probably done that early in the game. But if you can get supports in, then 4 swords starts to be very good. If you do use it with the new deck, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend, but if you did, that comes in with a built-in reroll. So that can be really good. That was quite tasty, actually. I did have lots of success with the attacks because rolling 3 hammers and 4 swords with rerolls starts to become very efficient. One thing I'm slightly disappointed about, I wanted the old Garrick days. None of them inspire to 5 move.
No,
they all stay on 4, even the dog.
Which is weird because they go on about the fact that they're whipcord fast and all this kind of stuff. Like, are they though?
They're whipcord fast, but they've just been out, they're tired. It's hard work digging for Emberstone.
They've been chopping lots of heads off and gathering skulls.
So none of them go up to anything beyond 4, which 4 is fine.
4's okay, it's serviceable.
But 5, a couple of 5, or even the dog with 5 would be quite nice.
I personally would have liked to have seen Throck go 2 hammers but 3 damage, possibly make him a little less accurate but a little bit more damaging, and then he'd be your really heavy hitter, but somebody you're going to have to invest in to make him more accurate.
Yeah, I suppose so. I suppose it's just reverse, isn't it? Plus with his bleed, if you can keep him alive late in the game, that could be quite brutal because you're going to hit probably. And then that starts to tell. So a couple of points that we did think about with the Warband, and partly because you were playing Sepulchral Guard, is what happens if the Worthy Skull is undead fighter and you kill them and then they get raised? Are they still the Worthy Skull? Do they stop being the Worthy Skull when they're dead, so when they're raised they're no longer the Worthy Skull? In the end, we went for they stay the Worthy Skull, and I had a little skulk through the rules today. Couldn't find anything that suggests that they lose any kind of abilities / keyword things. So they lose all their tokens and stuff, but they don't. There wasn't anything that would say any attributes given to them or something. So I don't know. So that really kind of needs an FAQ. My feeling is that they are the Worthy Skull if you bring them back.
And it does clarify that it's till the end of the battle round at least. So there's no question about do they just you get more and more of them?
No, you only get one. I feel like it's a bit of a shame that there's no bonus for killing the Worthy Skull. Now, maybe that would be too overpowered, but I kind of feel like, but there is a drawback, because if you kill them, that's it, you can't inspire anybody else that turn. I would maybe like to have seen, I'm not sure what, but some small bonus for actually killing the Worthy Skull in a round.
Maybe just healing one or something like that.
Yeah. Also, it would help you remember to actually do it later in the game, because you'd have a reason to still know who the Worthy Skull was. Because as I said at the beginning, if you've inspired everybody, and actually in both the games I inspired everybody fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And then certainly in the third term, we kind of forgot.
Inspiring them is fairly easy, and it gets easier if you're up against a big punchy warband. But even against a more numerous warband, it's still relatively easy. They might
You just
struggle.
have to think about it and not necessarily attack with the weak guys first. And hopefully you've got some push in there so you can get closer to the fighters without actually without charging or killing them, because you don't want to kill them.
They might struggle against faster warbands, maybe like Skaven or something like that maybe can put some distance between the Worthy Skull and your own fighters. But I think you just need to try and be canny with what you're picking there. All the time they're running those fighters away, they're not getting them involved in the action. So that does make your opponent...
To run away, they're losing an activation.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're not charging you.
And all the time these people aren't being hit is a plus, because even though they've got 2 dodge, they don't have masses of wounds, so they will fold up fairly quickly.
And it is hard to escape, because you push up 1 anyway.
Yes, there is that.
And they move 4.
And depending on the layout of the board, that initial push, I think, could possibly put you almost base to base with somebody straight away in certain formats, which means that you may already have somebody inspired, depending on who goes first, before you've even done anything with them.
Yeah.
So I overall would rate these much higher than the Knives of the Crone.
I think they're better.
Yeah.
But even if they're not better, you don't have feel bad moments, because you're in control.
There's none.
You're in control of it.
Inspiring them does feel much easier to achieve, because you can just stand next to people.
Maybe your opponent will do something that tricks you and you don't get it, but that's well played. Whereas Knives of the Crown is literally in the hands of the gods.
Yeah. The slashing as well is a nice little extra ping, which if you can get lots of accurate attacks, even though they're only 1 damage off, can start to seriously hinder your opponent's plans by forcing them to pick other fighters instead of the ones they want to pick, or by just doing the extra damage to them. So they've got some good tricks up their sleeves.
So what would you pair them with?
Well, I think they're down as an aggro warband, but I think they could be a little flex, because you've got 5 fighters there and you've got a little bit of movement shenanigan. You could possibly go for some P&P. They're obviously going to go well with like Blazing Assault.
Yeah, I put a Bath deck together for them. It looked quite good, but I'm never quite sure about Bath. It always feels like it depends too much on your opponent playing your game too. But I'm always wary of PP with 1 dodge fighters, because you don't want them to be staggered. I haven't tried it, I wonder whether you could actually do some Emberstone Sentinels with them, because you could put objectives right next to starting hexes and push fighters onto them straight away.
Pick the Worthy Skull. That's going to mean that when you push them 1 hex forward, you just move straight onto those. Straight onto
them, and then it's up to your opponent. Your opponent then has got to move you, and if he does that, he's got to come near you, and if he does that, then he's got to. You might be helping you inspire, assuming you've picked somebody central to be the Worthy Skull. I haven't tried it. Again, slightly dubious on 1 dodge.
Yeah, because you're not going to inspire, so that leaves you 1 dodge territory. You've got the same number of wounds, so maybe it won't make too much difference, and you can hopefully get those early scores in with like supremacy and stuff. I do feel like this warband, whilst they obviously lean more towards aggro, they've got some bodies and some movement shenanigans that they might fit into multiple different.
I've not tried Rack and Ruin with them. Rack and Ruin feels like it's got extra ping.
Yeah, even more ping for these guys. They
could work. I mean, I'm terrible with Rack and Ruin, so I haven't really looked at that at all.
But your opponent might find that, you charge and you do 1 damage.
Yeah.
But now they've got the token on them, so if they do anything, they're going to take wounds. Then you've got other cards to do more ping damage to them. It could very quickly
what is
mount
quite
up.
nice, and I did this a few times with you with the Spoggle Guard, is you can charge, do a damage, so they're not vulnerable, but you give them a bleed counter, and then you do some ping, because there's quite a lot of ping for non-vulnerable fighters, and suddenly they're vulnerable, but with a bleed counter on. So they're
trapped.
They can't do anything.
They literally, you take them out for the next activation, there's just nothing you can do to them unless you're happy for them to die, which I'm not sure very often you are.
So that's quite a sneaky way of getting a vulnerable fighter, of getting a vulnerable fighter sort of super vulnerable. Quite interested in these, more interested in these than the Knives of the Crone. I feel like they could be outmanoeuvred by Horde and outsmashed by Elite. That's my fear.
It'll be seeing where that slashing mechanic comes in to lock up fighters and how that might help things out. So.
I can see it being in the right hands, which aren't mine, being quite strong.
So what do you think about the new warband? Is there anything you'd like to ask any questions about? Do stick them in the comments below.
Let us know in the comments what decks you think they would be good to go with.
And don't forget to click that like button.
And click that subscribe button.
And ring that bell so you get notified of all our new videos.
And we'll see you soon, somewhere in the underworld.